Hi, everybody. This is Carol Vashon, and I'm excited about today's open mic because we're going to be talking about Omnipod 5's integration into open source automated insulin delivery systems. And one of the developers responsible for this is going to be joining us, James Woglom. The disclaimer is that Loop, Trio, and AAPS are open source algorithms to help automate insulin delivery. They are experimental and not approved by the FDA or any other governmental authority. Open beta testing, patches, or customizations are even more experimental. This presentation is provided to assist you in making your own decisions in consultation with your healthcare professionals regarding your own diabetes self-management. You take full responsibility for building and running the system and do so at your own risk. Now, it goes without saying that there are a lot of developers involved in this effort, and you'll get to hear about some of them over time, and some of them you'll never get to know. But for sure, they are all heroes without capes. So James is running a few minutes late. So we're just going to get started with some questions from the community, as well as any words of wisdom that one of the other developers, Dan Moody, has for us.
I'm not gonna be able to give you a date. Like I can't tell you it's available August 1st or whatever. Um, no, let me first like this. Right now we have had two pod faults. One pod fault was a nominal error and the other pod fault was an actual error, but that Omnipod 5 pod was from 2022. Right. And since it was from 2022, it had like a very old and very like dated battery, and that pod failed through a battery fault, basically, right? All other pods, and we're talking about hundreds of usage hours across the users that we have in the beta, where without any failures, any fault, we have a 100% success rate if we exclude that one battery pod. We haven't seen any 203 errors on any Omnipod 5 pods, and we haven't seen any real issues with iPhone 16 models and the 17e. So those issues seem to be fixed, quote unquote, with Omnipod 5 pods. Um, we're still testing. We're still trying to like get basically every single phone model that is usable with Loop or Trio covered. Um, but it's looking very good. And since it is looking like we're very confident to be like rolling this out to general availability this summer and this summer, like depending on how you define summer, if there were to happen, like if there were an issue to happen right now, right? Like we haven't really seen this in testing yet, and then there's like an actual error, then we need to kind of go back and fix that. But going from what we've seen so far, and I would have to look it up, like the number of pods that we've tested, but it's in the multiple hundred usage hours now across testers. We haven't seen any issues other than the typical pod issues. So, for example, I just really can't tolerate Omnipods that well. So I've been wearing, I think this is my fifth Omnipod now, and not a single pod has lasted me 72 hours because I get like bleeding sides and leaky pods. But those are pod issues, not Omnipod 5 issues, right?
Right. I was thinking the one difference which seems kind of nice is I have an option of another AID system. I'll bet probably not near as good as what I'm using in the open source community, but it's there and available for me as a backup if I did move to the 5. So I'll roll those dice.
So let's welcome James Woglom, who's going to tell us all about Omnipod 5. All right, James, where are you?
Hey, I'm in New York, where I live, and in my office today in a conference room. But over last weekend, was grateful to be at ADA conference in New Orleans and the D-Data uh, like day, which was like right before ADA, which is an event that has a lot of like historical significance in our community. It's where I believe one of the events that Amy Tendrick, who runs D-Data, hosted, is what like coined the term "we are not waiting." So very poetically, we were very excited to announce there that we have Omnipod 5 working with Trio and Loop, as you have probably heard. Tons I can talk about in terms of like what that looks like, and we published an FAQ on the Night Scout website, but definitely happy to answer any questions folks have. We have Omnipod 5 in closed beta right now. We expect an open beta to be available on your Loop and Trio dev branch by the end of the summer. And I'm using Omnipod 5 on Trio right now. So
There's a question, James, someone was asking, what is open beta? People are trying to figure out, does that mean anyone will be able to use Omnipod 5 by the end of the summer?
That's a great question. So I'll start by talking about where we're currently at, which is closed beta. Closed beta is that there's like around 10 people currently who are using Omnipod 5 with either Trio and Loop. And those people are submitting their app logs multiple times a week and directly engaging with the developers for any issues that they encounter. And through this closed beta, testing, we already have a number of things on the punch list of just some optimizations we want to make. One example is that like the the way that the Omnipod 5 works in its Bluetooth connection compared to the Dash is meaning that if you're a Trio user, you're getting a lot more notifications about the pump not being connected, but then like a minute after the notification comes, the pump does connect. So that's an example of the kind of like usability things that we're working on in the closed beta. And once that is done, we expect to move to open beta, which per your question, the open beta will be for those who are experienced with Trio or Loop and are willing to, be tech savvy enough to report any issues, give us logs, potentially run custom builds if necessary to troubleshoot issues. So the code will be public and it will be able to be used. But if you are on the main branch, which should be most people of Trio or Loop, you will not get Omnipod 5 yet. You will have to follow the instructions that get posted to like specifically go to the test branch that will have Omnipod 5 support in it. And then once it's fully released, you will need to follow instructions to go back to the main branch. After the open beta, it will be making its way into main, which will just mean that like, if that's a little intimidating to you, just wait a month or two. And after that open beta announcement, and, you'll be able to get access to it. Also, if Dash is working okay for you or whatever other pump or algorithm, there is no direct need to switch to Omnipod 5. Omnipod 5 does work with looping basically identical to Dash. So there are cases of people running into the 203 errors. There are cases of people who have specific models of iPhone that are called out in documentation and on Loop and Learn Facebook and stuff like that, who are especially having a lot of issues with Dash, who may want to be some of the first users of Omnipod 5 to, not have to be replacing their pods after a day and a half or 2 days due to the issues. But Dash is not going away anytime soon. Definitely a large percentage of the community will continue to use Dash, but they'll have the option to move to Omnipod 5 if and when they ever have to or want to.
I have a quick question. The Omnipod 5, is that strictly done through the OmniKit controller right now? Or is it only Eros and Dash that are available within the Loop app? I'm not talking Trio.
So on Loop right now, Eros requires a Riley link or an orange link.
Correct.
And then Dash can talk directly to the pod. When Omnipod 5 comes out, it will also talk directly to the phone without needing an additional device. When you switch through your Endo to Omnipod 5, as part of like the setup package, they will give you a PDM controller. But if you are using Loop, you can just put that controller in like a drawer somewhere.
Right. But let me answer Georgia's question. Georgia, right now, the Omnipod kit that you would get from GitHub does not enable you to use Omnipod 5.
Understood.
That
I
feature
have the
is turned on
PDM
later.
right now, so I was going to try an Omnipod 5, but given the OmniKit doesn't have that option, I can't do it. I understand.
That's okay.
Yes, you should wait until either open beta if you're comfortable changing your, branch of your build, or just wait a little bit longer and then hopefully by like October or November, it will be generally available to everyone. You'll just have to update your app and it will be there.
Understood. Those Omnipod 5s can sit there a little while longer.
Just check the expiration and the recall status.
Oh, well, that's true.
all.
Thank you.
There's a question about have the people who are testing now, found that the connectivity to the Dexcom G7 is better with the O5, or are you seeing any differences?
It shouldn't be any different because the Omnipod 5 pod itself, when you're using Trio or Loop, is not the one actually talking to the CGM. It continues to be your phone. So switching between Dash and O5 shouldn't impact the connectivity you're getting between your phone and your G7.
Okay.
And as far as the phone connectivity with the pod, I believe it's about the same, if not improved, because there's no Atlas pods for O5,
Okay.
which are the pods of Dash that some people were experiencing issues with.
Okay.
And I'd like to precise, as the summer can be in the different parts of the globe. Can we say that by the end of the August, for example, it will be available for beta open testing?
Yes, that's fair to
Kinda
say.
answered that,
American
right?
summer.
Miro.
Someone is asking if it's okay to install iOS 26.5, which
The
isn't
answer is
really-
yes.
Yeah, okay. But maybe a broader question is, with the O5, will people be able to update more quickly or easily, or will it be the same process?
It should be the same. Because at the end of the day, like, you will want to wait to hear the heads up that like nothing has changed in the latest iOS release that, breaks some of the optimizations in Tree or Loop. But you should probably treat updates about the same as you have before, which is basically hold out and wait for, usually within about a week of the new release, just the thumbs up from the community that it's good.
Right. Except for big releases, like, Apple just announced 27, and we've had a few people update already. And, I hope for them that all of a sudden they don't lose the ability to bolus or the screen goes blank. In general, a looping phone, unlike a test phone, really needs to wait. Let other people experiment.
Yeah, and definitely don't install the developer betas because they, even outside of Loop and Trio and T1D folks, can be kind of unstable.
To Katie Kennedy's question in the chat, actually,
Okay.
yes, and you have true interoperability. You can even use Omnipod 5 with an AvidSense 365 or a Libre. So
And also,
essentially, the pod is paired to the iPhone, so no
yes,
longer.
to that point, also Omnipod 5 pods, when you get the prescription written and you actually receive them, they will say specific CGMs that they support on the box. If you ever need to go back to using Omnipod 5 the way that Insulet designs, those designations will matter. So I would not recommend that you seek out Omnipod 5 pods that cannot work directly with the Insulet algorithm of CGMs that you have, just in case as a backup. But for Trio and Loop, the designation on the box will not matter because the pod itself does not talk to the CGM. It's your phone.
And another consequence of that is you don't have to place the pod and the CGM near each other so they can have line of sight, because they'll both be talking to your phone.
Exactly. And the phone usually has because it is a larger device, it has better antenna design, usually can keep a better connection with both the pod and the CGM than if the pod itself is trying to talk to the CGM because it's, it doesn't have the small antennas. There's a question in here around, can we use Omnipod 5 and Dexcom G6? Yes. So long as you're using G6 right now, you would install the app, you would do everything you normally would. Question here specifically about Dexcom One Plus. Do you know, I'm pretty sure you can use Dexcom One Plus in Loop.
One Plus is essentially a G7 in the UK. Yes, you can use it. You can use
and
all of the
Freestyle
CGM,
Libre, as we mentioned, which
all of the
coming in the next
CGMs that are currently available for Trio or Loop can be used with Omnipod 5 and Mobi going forward. If you're using them with Trio or Loop. If you are planning on using a CGM with Mobi and Control IQ, or if you're planning on using a CGM directly with Omnipod 5, then please, you need to have the CGM that the manufacturer has basically integrated into their commercial system. So, for example, you couldn't be using an Eversense with a Mobi or an Omnipod, but you can do it when you're using Trio or Loop.
To that point, another, as I think was mentioned before, another really great option with if you get O5 is that if for whatever reason you want to take a break from Trio or Loop, could be for anything. It could just be like you're going to be going on vacation and you might not have your phone with you and you want the pod to do the, the smart basal itself, or whatever other reason you might discuss with your endo. You can just, you can't swap an active pod, but you can always just, install the official Omnipod 5 app, pair it the official way with a new pod, and then your next pod change, you could go back to Loop or Trio. So on Omnipod 5, you will be able to swap to, using it like a normal Omnipod 5 on pod change. On pod change.
I have a question. Will the future Omnipod 5 users share if you will be one of those? Are you going to share with your healthcare professional that you will use Omnipod 5 with looping algorithm, or you will do like you will say that it's all 5 algorithm?
It won't show up in Gluco or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, just with my own provider, he knows. We've discussed it, and many of the ones on Loop and Learn healthcare providers list, they are supportive. So
I would definitely recommend not hiding what you're doing for your diabetes care from your doctor. Generally, not a good idea.
I have a question.
If you need any help finding a endo who's supportive, there is a list of recommended endos.
Be able to see from time and range and stuff. It's so dramatically different for most people.
Yeah.
Good
James,
call
I
on
know-
Tidepool.
Yeah.
Tidepool doctors' offices are often very happy to use Tidepool, and you can sync to Tidepool in Trio or Loop.
It's really important. What we're doing, or what James and the team have done, is we are reverse engineering a communication protocol to achieve true interoperability and to use Omnipod 5 for what it is, which is an insulin delivery device. I know this may sound nitpicky, but it is really important, because like when James and I walk through ADA and we actually talk to like pump manufacturers, and then someone says, "Oh, so you've hacked the pump?" Well, no, we didn't. We haven't hacked the pump. We have reverse engineered a communication protocol. We are still employing all of the safety mechanisms that you have built in. We have employed, like, we're still trying to basically adhere to everything you have, making sure it's safe, it works for people, it's gone through FDA and regulation, it's gone through user interface testing, it's gone through A/B testing, etc., etc. Like, I know I'm sounding a bit picky here right now, but it's really important to make this differentiation.
It's a really
That's very
important framing,
helpful.
especially
Thank you.
because, like, again, we are users of these devices, and we just, in the same way that we want access to the data these devices produce, we just want the ability to, utilize our own device in the way that we want. And that is, definitely realized by those manufacturers. I have to go, but it was great to be here. And if anyone has any more questions, they can post on Discord or Loop and Learn anywhere.
Dan, do you want to summarize where we are with O5?
We will, it will become available as a public beta, so it will be in the dev branch this summer. I can't give you an actual date. We haven't seen any faults in the testing that we have done so far, other than basically a single one, which was a battery fault, but that pod was a Omnipod 5 pod from 2022, so very dated. So it's okay if that pod failed with a battery issue. We haven't seen any other pod faults or failures other than the typical issues some people, like myself, for example, see with pods in general, like leaky side or whatever. But we haven't seen any issues with the driver. The driver seems to be very, very good, and no issues there. And once we deem it's okay, we'll move it to dev. And once it's been sitting in dev for a bit, we'll release it to main.
Well, thank you, everyone. We'll catch up next time.